Hey, this is James, and I am so glad you are here with me today. Why? Because I'm going to be giving you a walkthrough of the final iteration of my deck, the Oracle of Himm, and I'm so excited. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this, what I feel is a special video. As I said in the opening, I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of the final iteration of my deck, the Oracle of Himm, and this is how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to be doing what I call a compare and contrast. I'm going to be showing you, side by side, the initial copy, the copy that I showed you when I did my walkthrough, when I was talking woo-woo with Natasha, and I'm going to be comparing and contrasting that with the final iteration. So you're going to be seeing what has stayed the same and what changes I've made. And I'm very excited for you to see the changes. Okay, so let's just get to it, shall we? So let's move to the table and take a look at the comparison and contrast of the initial and final copies of the Oracle of Himm. And here we are with both copies of the Oracle of Himm on the table. On the left is the initial test copy that I had printed, and then on the right is going to be the final edition of the deck. And so as you can see, the first thing that you'll notice is that on top of the final edition is the title card that I talked about in my previous video where I walked through the deck. So there's a title card, and the title card has a Japanese kanji for the symbol of strength, and it just so happens to be one of the meanings of my middle name, Himm. So that is something I felt would make a great symbol for the title card. But there is the title card, so I'm going to now move that to one side. So as you can see, the card backs are the same for both editions because I just love that image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn each edition over because I have them in the same order. And so now one of the changes that I made for the deck throughout is I changed the size of the font. The font style is still the same because I love the font, but the size is a little smaller on the final edition. So the first card in the deck, Affirmations, hasn't changed. Still the same. Same for the Akashic Records card. The image is still the same. Haven't really made any changes to that. The same with the Anael card. The image is the same. Same as for the Angels cards. The image is the same, just the font's just a tad bit smaller. Okay, so now here's the card, or the first card I should say, where I made a change. And the significant change that I made is I wanted to give more attention to the trumpet on the card, so I resized the image so that the trumpet is larger on the final edition. So that is the change that I made to the Archangel Gabriel card. Okay, the Archangel Jeremiah card, the image is the same, haven't made any changes. Same with the Archangel Metatron card. Same with the Sandalphon card. For the most part, a lot of the imagery is still the same. Same with the Archangel Uriel card. As above, so below. Same with the Cassio card. Now the image on the Chokuray card is the same. And I didn't realize this when I actually redid the lettering, but in the initial edition I had it in white, and in this final edition I had it in black. I like them both. So that's Chokuray. Now here's another card where I made a significant change, and I alluded to it in the previous video. So on the left was the initial image that I had for Clairvoyance, and it's a TV set. And then when I received it and I looked at it, I felt it was a little too monochromatic, and I wasn't really sure if people could make out the fact without me pointing to it that it was a TV set. So what I did was I was on a hunt for another TV set image, and I found this vector image, and I loved it. What I really love about it is that there's an antenna on the top of the TV screen, and so that plays into a pun for having your antenna up, right? When you're talking about intuition, you know, you talk about having your antenna up. So I love the fact that there were antenna on the TV. And then it just brings to mind back in the day when I was much younger, and I'm dating myself, where TVs actually had antennas. We used to call them back in the day rabbit ears. And you know, in order to get great reception, you had to sometimes play with the antenna or the rabbit ears, right? So there's a nod for that. And so those who are as mature as I am will relate to that. But the visual pun of having antenna plays into the message of having your antenna up, which is part of clairvoyance. And then I found the background is, again, dating myself, back in the day when I was younger and there was a problem with the TV set, and it wouldn't be like on our end, it would be maybe with the broadcasting companies and, you know, so the channel itself or the network. If they were experiencing technical difficulties, they would put on the screen like a holding pattern or a testing pattern. So the background is actually an old TV testing pattern, right? And so that adds another element to the card's meaning, because it could be about observing your patterns, right? Because we all have patterns, you know, based on maybe conditioning and programming. That's the symbol of the TV. You know, besides the clairvoyance, the symbol here represents your conditioning and your programming, right? And so, but the background adds another layer of meaning to it. So I just love how this version of the card turned out. So that is the clairvoyance card. Communication is the same. And what I noticed in some of these is that the third edition, it seems like the images are just a little brighter or a little sharper. So I found that interesting. Counselor is the same. So is Crown Chakra Tingles. Cut the Cords is also the same. So is Deja Vu Past Lives. I love the image, so there was nothing I needed to do with this one. I just loved it. Next up is Divination, and the image is the same. So is the image for Dolphin for the most part. On the final edition, what I did was I moved out so I could get a little bit of a larger image in the background, because I wanted to make sure that my tattoos were not cut off. They're not cut off on the initial, but I still pulled back just a little bit so I can get my arm in all the way, because the symbolism with the tattoos, or the meaning of the tattoos based on their symbolism, could add to the meaning of the card. Because I have an Om symbol at the top, and then I have my kanji for my middle name beneath that. So they could also add layers of meaning to the overall meaning of the card. But I wanted to make sure that my arm wasn't cut off, so I cut back on that. But I like that final edition, so that's Dolphin. Dreams is the same. Now what I did the same thing with Dicomio. I pulled back just a little bit because I noticed that it was pretty close to the top with the symbol overall. So I pulled back a little bit. Now that I see them both together, I still like them. I mean, I still like this one too, but I like them both. But that's Dicomio. Ear chakras is the same in terms of the imagery. Although I noticed, again, noticing that the final copy, the face seems a little brighter than it does on the initial. Elder brother and way shower is the same. Again, just noticing to me that the third or the final copy seems brighter than the initial. And next is existential angst, and the image is the same. Gifts, the image is the same. So is guardian angel. So is Hanjise Shonen. Now here's where I made another change. And so this is the indigo card. And so what I like the image on the left, and I probably will stick with it, but over the course of working on the deck, I also felt like I wanted another image of a baby, just as an alternative. And so I went looking and I found this adorable baby on Unsplash, and I reworked the photo. And so again, I like them both, but for my own personal use, I probably will stick with the one on the left, but I do like them both. So that is indigo. That's another card that was significantly, if I can get the word out, changed. Infinite intelligence. The image is the same. Again, just looking at the two, I think the one on the right is a little sharper, a little crisper. The Lakshmi card is the same. So it's a life purpose card. So is the Magi card. So is the medium channel. Miracle is the same. Mirror work is the same. New Thought. So now what I did with the New Thought card is I just changed the color of the font. In addition to reducing the size, like I said, of the font overall throughout the deck, the first one is in black, and I thought, well, what would it look like if it was in white? And so I actually like the white just a little better, I think. Each one, I mean, there is a little bit of a challenge maybe trying to read what the title is of the card overall, but if I had to pick between the two, I think I like the white better than the black. So that's a change I made on New Thought. And then I did the same thing with the Prayer and Meditation card. And for the same reason, I could have put the font on the bottom, but I somehow just didn't want the words over the image of the man. And so the initial one is in black, and you can make it out somewhat. And the same with the white. I said, well, let me try it in white and see how it looks. And so if I had to pick between the two, just like the New Thought card, I'll probably stick with the one in white. But that is Prayer and Meditation. Reiki is the same. I did the same thing with Seiheki in terms of the font color. The first one is in black and it's really difficult to see it. And of course, because it's my personal deck, I know what the title is. But then I changed it to white and I just thought, wow, you can see the difference, right? See how it pops? So I like that one for Seiheki. Signs and Synchronicities. I said in the previous video that I didn't like the wording on top. For some reason, it just feels like it's crowding the image. I don't know, it's just me. So I thought I would try it on the bottom. So what I did was I put it all, instead of having two lines, I made it all one line. And I put it on the bottom and I like it much better. I feel like the image can breathe. I don't know, that's the best way I can put it. But anyway, I like how that turned out. So that is Signs and Synchronicities. Spirit Guide is the same in terms of the image. Now what I noticed though is that in the initial copy the font is slightly blue, and I guess it picked up on the coloring in the image, whereas in the final copy the font is white. And so I still like them, but I just noticed that as the one change, and that was not something that I purposely intended. So that is Spirit Guide. Next we have Star Person. The image has not changed because I really love that image. So that's Star Person. Study is the same. Tree of Life. Okay, so now the only change that I made to this card, the image is the same, but I just felt I wanted to add the word the. So the final copy has the Tree of Life rather than just Tree of Life. Twins is the same. I really love that image. So that image is the same. Okay, we're nearing the end. You are the best authority on you. Hasn't changed. So now, here we are at the final card in the deck, the one that I felt led and guided to add. So I'm going to do a little bit of a reveal here. So if you remember in the previous video, this was the image that I was asked to add, right? So the card is the Intuitive. And so I love the image. However, I alluded to this, but I don't think I clearly stated what my issue is with this card. So when I was working on the imagery, I was standing in front of a brown background. And then when I used the software to remove the background, and I didn't catch it until after I sent the image out for ordering, so I'll hold it up close so you can see. But if you are very observant, you will notice that I do not have ears. And so at first I thought I could live with that. And then, you know, I'm one of those where in the moment I think, oh, you know, it's not a big deal. I could live with it. And then I sit with it and I go, I can't live with that. So I was led and guided to, as a result of noticing that I didn't have any ears, to rework the image. And so this is what I came up with. Are you ready? Because I really love this. So here's the final version of the Intuitive card. Ta-da! Ah, what? Isn't that awesome? I just love how that came out. Oh my goodness. It is, to me, it is so much better than the previous version. So what I did was, I'll tell you a little bit about the process. So I realized the error of my ways. So what I did was I stood in front of a white wall or a white background, totally white. So when the software did its work in removing the background, my ears were there. I'll hold it up closer. Do you see? My ears are there. So I just love how this came out. And of course, then I used the same background as in the initial copy. And I went with a dark shirt because I felt like the pattern in the background and then the pattern in my shirt made the Intuitive card a little too busy. You know, with all the pattern work going on there, I just felt it was a little too busy. So I went with a solid black shirt, which is what I'm pretty much known for. I wear a lot of black clothes. So, but I love how the image turned out. So that is my final copy of the Intuitive card. I'm not changing that, unless, of course, I always feel led and guided. But that is the Intuitive, and that is the last card in the deck. So this has been the compare and contrast of my deck, the Oracle of Himm, between the initial copy and the final copy. So now I'm in a place where I'm going to be spending time with the deck. I'm testing it out, seeing how it reads, all that kind of stuff. I'm taking notes for that could be at some point down the line if I feel led and guided to sell the deck as a companion book or a guidebook. But right now where I'm at is I'm just really sitting with the cards, spending time with the cards to see how they read and to see what other meanings I come up with just through my own personal experience with the deck, right? That could be the material for a guidebook. So I just want to thank each and every one of you who have taken the time to watch these videos of me sharing my deck. For those of you who sent me positive words, kind words, words of encouragement and support for my efforts. I am in love with how the deck turned out, and I just want to thank you all for sharing in my excitement of this process, this unfolding process, because it's not done. The deck is done, but the process is still unfolding. So I just want to thank you for sharing in the excitement of all of this with me. So this is James Himm Mitchell. I am signing off. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day. Take care.